Before we begin tonight's story, if you're finding value in these accounts from America's national parks, please consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. It helps us continue bringing you these experiences from the people who witness the unexplainable. And I'm always curious, where in the world are you listening from right now? Drop your location in the comments. Now, let me tell you about the trail that changed everything I thought I knew about reality. My name is David Monroe, and I've been working as a park ranger in Sequoia National Park for over 12 years. At least I was working. I can't say for sure anymore. When we rewind time, the uncertainty of time becomes a strange situation. But when I go too far forward or backward, the linear progression of cause and effect no longer seems very logical. Let's start from the beginning, or rather, from the beginning as I remember it. It was early September 2003. I was 38 years old, recently divorced, and spending more time in the park than I did in my empty apartment in Three Rivers. The divorce had been finalized that spring, and I'd thrown myself into work with the kind of desperate focus that comes from having nothing else to go home to. My ex-wife, Michelle, had taken the dog, the good coffee maker, and whatever illusions I'd had about conventional happiness. She'd left me with the camping gear, the books about forest ecology, and a job that suddenly felt less like a career and more like a refuge. I volunteered for every extra shift, every trail maintenance assignment, every search and rescue call-out. My supervisor, Bill Garrett, had started giving me concerned looks, the kind that said he knew I was running from something but was too polite to mention it. The other rangers had stopped inviting me to barbecues and birthday parties. I'd become the guy who was always working, always available, always alone. On September 7th, I was assigned to inspect the northern trail system near the giant forest. It was routine maintenance, checking for downed trees, damaged markers, erosion issues. The kind of work that let your mind wander while your body went through the motions. I liked it that way. Thinking about the divorce meant thinking about all the ways I'd failed as a husband, all the nights I'd chosen extra shifts over dinner conversations, all the silences that had grown between us like weeds in a garden neither of us tended anymore. The morning was perfect. That's what I remember most clearly. The sequoias were backlit by golden sunlight, their massive trunks glowing red-brown against the blue sky. The air smelled of pine and earth, and that particular crispness that comes in early autumn. I had my GPS unit, my trail map, a notebook, and a camera. Standard equipment for a standard day. I'd covered about 8 miles when I noticed it. A trail marker I didn't recognize. It was subtle, just a small wooden post with a faded number. 0. Trail 0. I checked my map. No Trail 0. I checked my GPS. Nothing. The official park trail system started at Trail 1 and went up to Trail 47. There was no Trail 0, but there it was, a narrow path leading deeper into the forest, well worn despite not appearing on any map. The vegetation around it was strange too. The trees were sequoias, yes, but they seemed off. The bark patterns were reversed somehow, spiraling the wrong direction. The undergrowth was too green for September, too lush, like it was growing backwards into summer instead of forward into fall. I should have radioed it in. That was protocol. Unmapped trails meant either unauthorized hiking routes or old decommissioned paths that needed to be officially closed. But something about it fascinated me. A mystery. Something to focus on besides the empty apartment and the signed divorce papers sitting on my kitchen table. I took a photo of the marker and started down the trail. The first thing I noticed was the temperature. It got warmer as I walked, not cooler like you'd expect going deeper into shade. The light changed too, becoming brighter, more vibrant. The colors seemed oversaturated, like someone had turned up the contrast on reality. About a quarter-mile in, I saw the tree. It was a young sequoia, maybe 30 feet tall. But as I watched, it was shrinking. Not dying, not withering, shrinking. Growing backwards. The trunk was getting narrower, the branches shorter. I stood there for 5 minutes, timing it on my watch. In those 5 minutes, the tree lost approximately 2 feet of height. I took out my camera with shaking hands and started recording. Through the viewfinder, I watched the tree continue its reverse growth. Needles were disappearing from the branches, not falling, but simply ceasing to exist, leaving fewer and fewer behind. The bark was becoming smoother, younger. This was impossible. This violated every law of biology, of physics, of basic reality. But it was happening right in front of me. I heard voices ahead, human voices, laughing. I pocketed the camera and continued down the trail, half convinced I was having some kind of breakdown. Maybe the stress of the divorce had finally cracked something in my brain. Maybe I was hallucinating, but the voices were real. I found them about 100 yards further in, a young couple, maybe mid-20s, wearing hiking gear and holding hands. They were standing in a small clearing, looking at something on the ground with delight. "Excuse me," I wished, and I called out. "This is an unmapped trail. It's not officially open to hikers." They turned to me, still smiling. The young man spoke first. "We just found it by accident. We've been hiking all the official trails and wanted to try something new. Is it dangerous?" "I don't know yet. That's what I'm here to determine. How long have you been on this trail?" The young woman checked her watch. "About 20 minutes, I think. We came in from the northern access point." 20 minutes. They looked fine, normal, happy even, in that way young couples do when they're still discovering each other. "What were you looking at?" I asked, gesturing to the ground. "This beetle," the young man said, kneeling down. "It's moving backwards, like literally in reverse. Watch." I crouched beside him. Sure enough, there was a beetle on a fallen log, and it was indeed moving backwards. Its legs were working in reverse, its antennae twitching in a pattern that looked like a video being rewound. "That's unusual," I said, which might have been the understatement of my career. "Listen, I need you both to come with me. We're going to exit the trail together. This area needs to be properly assessed before anyone else uses it." They agreed easily, still enchanted by the backwards beetle. As we walked back toward the trail entrance, I kept checking my watch. Something felt strange about the passage of time, but I couldn't put my finger on what. We reached the Trail Zero marker after what felt like a 10-minute walk, but when I checked my watch, 45 minutes had passed. "Did that feel like 45 minutes to you?" I asked the couple. They both shook their heads. The young woman said, "Maybe 15 minutes?" I took their contact information, Jake and Emma Morrison, visiting from Portland, and recommended they head back to their campsite. They thanked me and headed down the main trail, still holding hands, still happy. I watched them go, then turned back to Trail Zero. I should have called it in, should have gone back to headquarters, filed a report, let someone else investigate. But that mysterious pull was still there, stronger now. The divorced ranger with nothing to go home to and a trail that defied physics. I had to know more. I walked back down Trail Zero, this time paying attention to everything. The temperature gradient, gaining about 1 degree every 100 yards. The light quality, shifting from afternoon to midday to morning as I progressed. The sounds, birds singing in reverse, their calls unwinding into silence before starting again. And the trees. The sequoias were definitely growing backwards. I could see it now that I was looking for it. The growth rings were contracting, the bark becoming smoother, the branches shortening. Not rapidly, but measurably. I marked one tree with chalk and timed it. In 10 minutes, it had shrunk by approximately 3 inches. I walked for 2 hours by my watch, though it felt like 30 minutes. The trail led deeper into the forest, winding between massive sequoias that seemed to be getting younger with each step I took. The undergrowth was changing too, less developed, more sparse, like I was walking backwards through the seasons and the years. Then I found the second hikers. They were sitting on a fallen log, and something was very, very wrong. The couple was elderly, 70s, maybe 80s. The man had white hair and deeply lined skin. The woman beside him was gray-haired, her hands spotted with age. They were wearing hiking clothes, but the clothes looked new, barely worn, and they were crying. "Are you all right?" I asked, approaching slowly. "Do you need medical assistance?" The woman looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes. "What happened to us? We just started walking an hour ago. We were young. We were just married. We wanted to go on a hike for our honeymoon, and now? Look at us." My blood went cold. "What's your name?" "Emma. Emma Morrison. And this is Jake. We're on our honeymoon. We got married 3 months ago. But we're old now." "How did we get old?" Emma and Jake Morrison. The same couple I'd met an hour ago near the entrance. Young, mid-20s, happy. I looked at them carefully. It was them. Same facial structure, same eyes, just aged by 50 or 60 years. Jake had the same scar over his left eyebrow. Emma had the same small gap between her front teeth. "How long have you been on this trail?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Jake checked his watch, a modern digital model that looked brand new. "An hour, maybe a little more. We walked in, we were enjoying the scenery, and then Emma noticed her hands looked different. And I looked at her, and she was older, and she looked at me, and I was old too. It happened so fast. We tried to walk back out, but we got turned around." I took out my radio. "Dispatch, this is Ranger Monroe. I need immediate medical evac at..." I paused. I didn't know how to describe this location. "At Trail Zero, approximately 2 miles from Northern Access." Static, then Bill's voice. "Dave? There's no Trail Zero in the system. What's your actual location?" "I'm on an unmapped trail north of Giant Forest. I have 2 hikers who need immediate assistance. They're elderly and disoriented." "Copy that. We'll get SAR mobilized. Can you guide them out?" I looked at Jake and Emma. Both were staring at their aged hands like they belonged to someone else. "I'll try." I helped them to their feet. They moved like elderly people, careful, slightly unsteady, joints stiff. An hour ago, they'd been running their hands through each other's hair, laughing at backwards beetles. We started walking back toward the entrance. I kept checking my watch, kept noting the changes around us. The trees were growing larger again, or rather, forward again. The temperature was dropping. The light was shifting back toward afternoon, and Jake and Emma were getting younger. It happened slowly at first. Jake's white hair started showing streaks of gray, then brown. Emma's wrinkles began to soften, her skin regaining elasticity. They noticed it too, stopping every few minutes to look at each other in wonder and fear. "Are we going back to normal?" Emma asked, her voice already sounding younger, stronger. "I think so. Just keep walking." By the time we reached the Trail Zero marker, they were in their 40s. Still older than when they'd entered, but not elderly anymore. Their clothes, which had been tight on aged bodies, now fit better. The wedding rings that had been loose were snug again. SAR was waiting with a medical team. They checked Jake and Emma's vitals, elevated heart rate, mild dehydration, but otherwise healthy. For people in their 40s. Bill pulled me aside while the medics worked. "Dave, what the hell happened out there?" I don't know how to explain it. Try. They aged, Bill. I met them when they were in their 20s. They walked down that trail for an hour and came out in their 70s. Then they walked back and got younger again. The trail, time works differently on it. Bill stared at me. That's not possible. I know, but I saw it. I documented it. I showed him my camera, the video of the backwards growing tree, the photos of Jake and Emma at different ages. He watched in silence, his face getting paler. This stays quiet until we understand what we're dealing with. I'm closing that trail effective immediately. No one goes near it until we get some answers. But I knew I was going back. I had to. Because if time ran backwards on that trail, if you could literally walk into yesterday, then what was at the end? Where did it lead? That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my empty apartment staring at the ceiling, thinking about Jake and Emma. They'd aged 50 years in an hour, then gotten 20 of those years back walking out. But they were still older than when they'd started. The trail had taken something from them. Time, youth, whatever you wanted to call it. But it had also given them something. I'd seen it in their eyes as they sat on that log, elderly and confused. They'd had lives together, memories of 50 years of marriage condensed into a single hour. Jake had mentioned their grandchildren. Emma had talked about their anniversary cruise, memories of things that never happened but felt absolutely real to them. What if you could walk the whole trail? What if you could walk backwards through your entire life? Through human history, through the formation of the earth? What if you could walk all the way to the beginning? I sat up in bed, my heart racing. The beginning, the Big Bang, the origin of everything, what would that look like? What would exist before the beginning? I had to know. The next morning I called in sick. First time in 12 years. Then I drove to the park before dawn, parked at a rarely used access point and hiked to Trail Zero alone. The marker was still there. Bill had put up a trail closed sign, but it felt temporary, insufficient. This was bigger than a closed trail. This was a fundamental tear in reality. I checked my equipment. Full water supply, energy bars, emergency beacon, camera, notebook, and my watch. I'd brought 3 watches, one on each wrist, one in my pocket. I wanted to document the time distortion as precisely as possible. I took a deep breath and stepped onto Trail Zero. Immediately, the world shifted. The morning light became afternoon, became midday. The temperature rose. The forest sounds reversed. Birds unsung their songs. Wind unwound through the trees. I walked slowly, documenting everything. The trees shrinking. The undergrowth becoming sparser. A dead bird on the path suddenly twitching, then flying backwards up into a tree, alive again. After an hour by my first watch, 30 minutes by my second, 90 minutes by my third, I realized the time distortion wasn't consistent. It was accelerating. The deeper I went, the faster time reversed. I pulled out my notebook and started writing observations, trying to make sense of the physics. Entropy reversal. The second law of thermodynamics stated that entropy, disorder, always increased in a closed system. But here, it was decreasing. Order was emerging from chaos. Heat was flowing from cold to hot. Time's arrow had reversed. A memory surfaced, unbidden. Michelle and I, on our wedding day, young and optimistic, believing we had all the time in the world. Then another memory, earlier. Our first date. Earlier still, the moment I first saw her across a coffee shop, feeling that electric recognition. I stopped walking. Why was I remembering backwards? I checked my reflection in my camera screen. I looked the same. Same age, same face. But something felt different. Lighter, somehow. like I was carrying less weight. I kept walking. The forest was changing now. The sequoias were smaller, younger, 50 feet tall instead of 200. The undergrowth was different species, earlier successional stages. I was walking backwards through the forest's history. How far back did this trail go? When did it start? Or rather, when did it end? I walked for another subjective hour, though my watches were now completely out of sync. One said 2 hours had passed, one said 30 minutes, one said 4 hours. Time had stopped being a reliable measure. And then I saw it. The tree I'd marked with chalk the day before. The one I'd watched shrink. But now it was tiny. A sapling, barely 3 feet tall. As I watched, it got smaller. 2 feet, 1 foot, 6 inches. It became a seedling, then a seed. Then it vanished entirely, sucked back into the ground, uncreated. I stared at the empty spot where the tree had been. Unborn, unmade, returned to pure potential. That's when I understood what this trail really was. It wasn't just a path where time ran backwards. It was a path to the beginning, to before, to the moment when everything started, and if you walked far enough to what existed before, everything started. I stood there, breathing hard, my mind reeling with the implications. At the end of this trail was the ultimate answer, the question every human had asked since we learned to wonder, where did it all come from? And I could find out. I could walk this trail to its end and see with my own eyes the birth of the universe, the moment before time began. But there was a cost. I could feel it already. The memories flowing backwards, the weight of my years lifting. If I kept walking, I wouldn't just observe the past. I'd become it. I'd walk backwards through my own life, through my own birth, through my own conception. I'd walk myself out of existence. The question was it worth it? I looked down the trail, winding deeper into the backwards forest. Somewhere ahead was the answer to everything, the ultimate knowledge, the final mystery solved. Behind me was the normal world. Forward time, my empty apartment, my failed marriage, my lonely job. A life moving in the standard direction, toward entropy and endings. I checked my 3 watches one last time. They were now spinning backwards, the hands moving counterclockwise. Time was done pretending to move forward here. I took a step deeper into Trail Zero, then another, and with each step I felt another year of my life lift away, another memory return to sender, another moment of existence peeling off like pages torn from a book. But I also felt something else. Purpose. Meaning. The sense that I was walking towards something infinitely more important than anything I'd left behind. The trail wound on ahead of me, leading backwards through time, through history, through all the moments that had led to now. And I followed it, because some questions are worth any price to answer, even the price of existence itself. I don't know how long I walked. Time had stopped being a meaningful measurement. My watches had all stopped working entirely now, frozen at different times like artifacts from different timelines. The sun overhead wasn't moving in any direction I could track. It just was. Eternal noon, or eternal sunset, or eternal dawn. All of them at once, somehow. The memories were peeling away faster now. I'd lost my 30s completely. I could remember my late 20s, the academy, the early years as a ranger, meeting Michelle. But anything after age 29 was gone. Not forgotten, exactly, more like it hadn't happened yet. Because, from the trail's perspective, it hadn't. I was walking backwards through my own life. I stopped to rest at a clearing and pulled out my notebook. My handwriting looked different. Younger. The way I'd written in my early 20s, before I'd developed the efficient scrawl of adulthood. I tried to document what I was experiencing, but the words felt inadequate. Memory erosion confirmed, I wrote. Personal timeline reversing. Age appears stable physically, but psychological age decreasing. Trail continues backward. Trees now approximately 100 years younger based on size. No sign of trail end. I paused, pen hovering over paper. There was something else I needed to write. Something important, but I couldn't remember what. Something about a woman? Someone I'd been married to? No, I'd never been married. I was only 28. 27? I checked my driver's license from my wallet. Date of birth, 1975. That made me, I couldn't do the math. What year was it? 2003? But that would make me 28. But I felt younger than that, 25 maybe, or 23. I put the notebook away and kept walking. The forest around me was transforming. The sequoias were now young trees, barely 100 feet tall. Between them grew species I didn't recognize, or rather, species I did recognize, but from textbooks about forest succession, not from living experience. These were the pioneer species, the early colonizers, the trees that grew before the giants, and they were all growing backwards. I watched a pine tree for what felt like an hour. It shrank from 80 feet to 60 to 40 to 20, its bark smoothed, its branches retracted. Eventually, it was just a sapling, then a seedling, then a seed that popped out of the soil and lay on the surface for a moment before being picked up by a bird flying backwards. The bird itself was incredible to watch. It flew in reverse, its wings beating in a pattern that looked wrong but somehow maintained perfect lift. It landed on a branch, regurgitated a seed, and flew backwards away. Everything was running on rewind, but it wasn't chaotic. It was perfectly ordered, like watching a film in reverse, except this was real. This was actually happening. I heard voices ahead and immediately tensed. I wasn't alone out here. Around a bend in the trail, I found them. 3 people, sitting in a circle on the ground, holding hands. 2 women and a man, all appearing to be in their early 20s. They looked up as I approached, and I saw something strange in their eyes. Recognition mixed with confusion. Like they knew me, but couldn't place how. "Are you David?" one of the women asked. She had red hair and freckles and spoke with a slight southern accent. "Yes. How do you know my name?" "You told us. Or you will tell us. Time is confusing here." She gestured to the others. "I'm Sarah. This is Marcus and Jennifer. We've been on this trail for, I don't know, days? Weeks? We can't leave." "Why not?" Marcus spoke up. "We tried, but when we turned around and walked back toward the entrance, we just got younger and younger." Sarah made it back to age 12 before she panicked and turned around again. "The trail doesn't want to let us go." I sat down with them, trying to process this. "How old were you when you entered?" "I was 42, Sarah said. "Now I'm 21. I've lost 20 years. 37, Marcus said. "Now 23. 51, Jennifer said quietly. "I'm 19 now. I don't remember most of my adult life anymore. It's just gone." I understood then. They'd been walking the trail for so long that they'd reversed through decades of their lives, and the memories of those years had vanished because, from their current perspective, those years hadn't happened yet. "Why did you come here?" I asked. Sarah smiled sadly. "Research. I'm a physicist. I was a physicist. I heard rumors about time anomalies in Sequoia and had to investigate. Marcus and Jennifer came with me because—" She paused, looking at them. "Why did you come?" Marcus shrugged. "I don't remember. I remember entering the trail, but not why." Jennifer shook her head. "Me neither. It's all fuzzy." The trail took those memories, Sarah said. The motivation, the adult context, all of it. We're becoming our younger selves, and our younger selves didn't have a reason to be here yet. So the reason disappears. I pulled out my notebook. The pages were filling up with observations I didn't remember writing. My own handwriting getting progressively younger looking as the entries went on. The latest entry was in the handwriting I'd had as a teenager, round, unformed, enthusiastic. "Have you seen where the trail leads?" I asked. Sarah nodded. Some of us walked ahead. Not far. We were afraid we'd get too young to find our way back. But the trail keeps going. The trees get smaller and smaller. Eventually, they're not sequoias anymore. They're older species, proto-trees. And beyond that, she trailed off. Beyond that, what? We don't know, but we can feel it, like a pull, something at the end of the trail calling to us, something big. The beginning, I said. The beginning of what? Everything. Sarah stared at me for a long moment. Then she started laughing, a slightly hysterical sound. Of course, of course. A trail that runs backwards through time would lead to the Big Bang, the moment when time itself started. Oh God, that's what's at the end, isn't it? The birth of the universe. I think so. And if we walk there, we walk through our own births, through our own conception, through our parents' lives, our grandparents' lives, backwards through all of human history. Marcus looked sick. We'd cease to exist. Maybe, I said. Or maybe we'd become something else. An observer outside of time, a witness to creation itself. Jennifer shook her head violently. No, that's insane. We need to get out of here. We need to walk back to the entrance and accept whatever age we end up. I tried to calculate it, Sarah said. Based on our walking speed and the rate of temporal reversal, if we walk back to the entrance from here, we'll arrive at approximately age 8 or 9. We'll be children, with no memory of our adult lives, no context for what happened to us. We'll probably think we just got lost in the woods. That's better than ceasing to exist, Jennifer insisted. Is it? Sarah met her eyes. Is a life with all those memories erased, all those experiences unmade, really better? Or is it just another form of death? I understood then why they were sitting here. They were stuck. Not physically, they could walk in either direction, but psychologically, philosophically stuck. Walk forward and risk erasure. Walk backward and become children with no understanding of what they'd lost. There might be a third option, I said. Stay here. Right here, at this point in the trail. Don't move forward or backward. Just exist in this moment. We tried that too, Marcus said. But the trail won't let us. If we stay still for too long, we start moving anyway, backwards. Like the trail is a river and we're being pulled downstream, upstream, whatever direction backwards is. Sarah pulled out a journal, leather-bound, filled with equations and diagrams. I've been trying to understand the physics. It's not just time running backwards, it's entropy reversal. The second law of thermodynamics says entropy always increases, disorder always grows. But here, it's decreasing. Order is emerging from chaos. Broken things are becoming whole. Dead things are becoming alive. She flipped to a page covered in complex mathematical notation. I think what we're experiencing is a region of space where the arrow of time has reversed. Somehow, some anomaly has created a pocket where causality runs backwards, and the trail follows that pocket all the way back to its source. What could cause something like that? I asked. I have no idea. A quantum fluctuation? A collision with exotic matter? A tear in space-time? I'm not even sure if current physics has the framework to explain it. She laughed again, that edge of hysteria creeping back in. And the worst part is, the further back I go, the less I understand. I'm losing my education. My PhD is gone. My master's degree will be next, then my bachelor's. Soon, I'll just be a smart kid who likes science but doesn't understand any of this. We sat in silence for a while, listening to the backward sounds of the forest. Birds unflying, wind unblowing. Somewhere in the distance I could hear water flowing uphill. I'm going to keep going, I said finally. I have to see where it leads. Why? Jennifer asked. What's worth losing your existence for? Knowledge. Understanding. The answer to the biggest question humanity has ever asked. Where did we come from? I can find out. I can actually see it with my own eyes. You won't have eyes if you walk that far, Marcus said. You won't have existed to develop eyes. You'll be what, a collection of molecules? Atoms? Energy? Maybe. But for a moment, for an instant, I'll understand everything. I'll see the truth. Isn't that worth it? Sarah closed her journal. I thought so. When I first got here, I thought exactly that. But now, I'm 21, and I miss being 42. I miss my career, my apartment, my cat. I miss knowing things, understanding the world. And those feelings will fade too. Soon I'll be 18, then 15, then 12. Eventually, I'll be so young I won't even understand what I've lost. I'll just be a confused child who got lost in the woods. Then come with me, I said. Walk to the end. See what's there before you forget why it matters. She looked tempted. I could see the scientific curiosity warring with the survival instinct in her eyes. But Jennifer grabbed her arm. No, Sarah, no. We're walking back, right now, before we get any younger. We'll be children, but we'll be alive. We'll have a chance to grow up again, to live new lives. Lives we won't remember choosing, Sarah said. Better than no life at all. Marcus stood up. I'm with Jennifer. I don't care about seeing the beginning of the universe. I care about existing, even if I only exist as a 9-year-old with no idea how I got here. Sarah looked at me one more time. Last chance, come with us. Walk back. We'll all be kids together, confused, but alive. I shook my head. I can't, I have to know. Then I guess this is goodbye. She stood and hugged me. I hope you find what you're looking for, and I hope it's worth it. They walked back toward the trail entrance, hand in hand, supporting each other. I watched them go, watched them get perceptibly smaller, not just from distance but from age, as they moved back through time. I turned and faced the trail ahead. The trees were tiny now. Saplings, seedlings, seeds. The forest was ungrowing around me, and beyond it, I could see something else. A different landscape. Older, stranger, I started walking. My memories continued to peel away. I lost my early 20s. I forgot the Ranger Academy, forgot my first jobs, forgot high school graduation. I was 18, then 16, then 14. The trail led through a landscape that was no longer sequoia. The trees were wrong, species I didn't know, that might not even exist anymore in forward time. The sky was a different color, tinged with green. The sun looked larger. I was walking through geological time now, backward through the epochs. A dinosaur walked by in reverse, or something like a dinosaur. It moved awkwardly, its massive body seeming to defy physics. It was walking backwards, but somehow maintaining balance, defying entropy. I wanted to stop and stare, but I couldn't. The trail pulled me forward, or backward. The direction had stopped mattering. My memories were fragmented now. I was 12, then 10, then 8. I remembered my mother, my childhood home, but the details were fuzzy. I was losing language, losing complex thought, returning to the simple awareness of a child. But I could still walk, and I could still wonder. The landscape changed again. The ground became volcanic, hot and primal. The sky was orange. There was no sun, just a diffuse glow. I was walking through the formation of the earth, and still the trail went on. I lost my childhood. I was 5, then 3, then 1. My memories became sensory only: warmth, light, mother's voice. Then even that was gone. I was unborn, but still conscious, somehow, still aware, just awareness itself, floating in the void, being pulled backward toward the source. The trail led through darkness now. Not empty darkness, full darkness. Darkness, pregnant with potential, with all the matter and energy of the universe compressed into a single point. And I could see it ahead. A light, not bright, the opposite of bright. A light that absorbed all light, all time, all existence. The beginning, the singularity, the moment before the Big Bang. I walked toward it, this awareness without a body, without a history, without an existence. And as I approached, I understood. This was what existed before existence. This was the question behind all questions. This was a hand on my shoulder. I gasped and turned. I was standing on the trail again, in my body again. Younger but present, I was maybe 12 years old, and standing behind me was me. An older version of me. 38, tired-looking, familiar. "You have to stop," the older me said. "You're not supposed to reach the beginning, not yet. Not like this. Who are you?" "I'm you, from the forward timeline. I came back to stop you from making the same mistake I made." "What mistake?" "Reaching the singularity." I got there, I saw it, and it broke something. Not just in me, in reality. When you witness the beginning from outside of time, you create a paradox. An observer that exists before observation was possible. It creates a loop, a cycle. The universe cannot have existed before an observer existed to collapse the quantum waveform, but the observer cannot exist before the universe. So both try to exist simultaneously, and reality fractures. I stared at him. "I don't understand." "You will. Or you would if you kept going, but you can't. Because if you do, you'll trap yourself in the same loop I'm trapped in, walking this trail forever, forwards and backwards, trying to fix a paradox that can't be fixed. Then what do? You turn around, you walk back. You accept the loss of memories, the return to childhood. You live a normal life even if you don't remember this one. You exist instead of trying to witness existence. I looked forward at the trail, leading toward that impossible light. Then I looked back, toward the entrance, toward forward time. The choice was still there. Understanding or existence. "I'm tired," the older me said. "I've been walking this trail for subjective centuries, forwards and backwards over and over, trying to find a way to break the loop. I can't do it, but maybe you can if you don't start the loop in the first place. How do I know you're real? You could be a hallucination, a trick of the trail." He smiled sadly. "You don't know. You can't know. That's the whole problem with backwards time. Cause and effect get tangled. I'm warning you because you warned me because I warned you. The loop exists because we try to prevent it." My head hurt. My 12-year-old mind couldn't handle the paradox. "Just go back," the older me said. "Please, end this for both of us." He faded, like he'd never been there. I stood alone on the trail, somewhere in the Mesozoic era, a 12-year-old consciousness trying to decide the fate of reality itself. And slowly, fighting every instinct, fighting the pull toward the beginning, I turned around. And I started walking back toward the entrance, toward forward time, toward existence. The trail resisted. I could feel it pulling me backwards, trying to drag me toward the singularity. But I pushed against it, step by step, aging as I went, 13, 14, 15. The memories flooded back, but they felt different now, like stories I'd been told rather than things I'd experienced. 20, 25, 30. The sequoias grew around me, becoming giants again. The forest became the forest I knew, and finally, I saw it. The Trail 0 marker. And standing beside it, waiting for me, was Bill. "David?" He looked shocked. "You've been gone for 3 hours. We were about to send SAR after you." 3 hours. I'd walked through millions of years in 3 hours. "I'm back," I said. My voice was my own again, 38 years old, all my memories intact. Mostly intact. There was a gap now, a hole where the younger memories should have been. The time I'd spent as a child walking backwards through geological epochs. I remembered it happening, but I didn't remember experiencing it. Like it had happened to someone else. "What did you find?" Bill asked. I looked back at Trail 0, the sign he'd put up. Trail closed. It was inadequate. But it was all we had. "Nothing," I lied. "Just an old decommissioned trail. Weird time dilation effects from the local geology. We should definitely keep it closed." Bill studied my face. He knew I was lying, but he also knew some lies were necessary. "Okay," he said finally. "Let's go home." We walked back to the parking lot together, and I didn't look back. But I knew I would return. The trail was still there. The backwards flow of time was still there. And somewhere ahead, or behind, or outside of direction entirely, the beginning was still waiting. The question was, would I be brave enough or foolish enough to try again? I tried to stay away from Trail 0 for 6 months. I worked my regular shifts, filed my reports, helped tourists take photos in front of the General Sherman tree. I went through the motions of normal life, pretending that nothing had changed, that I hadn't walked through millions of years of reverse time and met my future self warning me about a causality loop. But at night, I dreamed of the trail. I dreamed of walking backwards through my own life, through history, through the formation of the earth. I dreamed of that light at the end, the singularity, the beginning, the moment before moments existed. And I knew I was going back. Bill had erected better barriers around Trail 0. Chain link fence, warning signs, even a motion sensor that would alert park security if anyone approached. But I had keys to all of it. I was a ranger. I had access. In March of 2004, on a Tuesday night when I knew I had the next 3 days off, I gathered my equipment. This time, I was more prepared. I brought a video camera with extra batteries, a digital voice recorder, notebooks, a laptop computer. I wanted to document everything before the memories faded. I also brought a rope, a long climbing rope that I could tie to a tree at the entrance, unspooling it as I walked. A physical tether to the forward time world. If I got too young to remember why I was there, maybe I could follow the rope back. At midnight, I drove to the access point. The park was deserted at this hour. I disabled the motion sensor, unlocked the chain link fence, and stood before the Trail 0 marker. The trail looked the same. Innocuous, peaceful, just another path through the trees. But I could feel it now, the wrongness radiating from it. The air was warmer here, the sounds slightly off. Reality was thin here, permeable. I tied one end of the rope to a sturdy sequoia, tested the knot, and started down the trail with the coil over my shoulder, letting it unspool behind me. The familiar sensations started immediately. Temperature rising, light shifting, the forest sounds reversing, my watches beginning their backward spin. But this time I was ready. I spoke into the recorder constantly, narrating everything I saw. Entering Trail Zero, 12:14 a.m. Temperature rising. Birds singing in reverse. Trees showing early signs of reverse growth. Proceeding slowly, maintaining rope contact with entrance point. The rope unspooled behind me, a physical line connecting me to the normal world. It felt comforting, like an umbilical cord to reality. I walked for what felt like an hour, documenting everything. The video camera captured the backwards growing trees, the reverse flying birds, the strange quality of the light. This time, I would have proof. Evidence that couldn't be dismissed as hallucination or stress. Then, the rope went slack in my hands. I stopped and looked back. The rope was still there, still stretched out behind me along the trail. But it was fraying. Not from age or wear. It was unaging. The synthetic fibers were separating, becoming the raw materials they'd been manufactured from. As I watched, the rope literally came apart, transforming from a functional climbing rope to a pile of loose polymer fibers. My tether to the forward world was gone. I stood there holding what had been a rope, watching it dissolve into component parts. The trail had rejected my attempt to stay connected. It wanted complete immersion in backwards time. Rope has dissolved, I said into the recorder. Trail appears to actively resist objects from forward timeline maintaining coherence, proceeding without tether. The video camera's battery died next. Then the voice recorder. Then my laptop. One by one, my technological aids failed as their internal processes reversed, their stored energy uncharging, their circuits becoming raw materials. I was left with just notebooks and pens, analog technology, simple enough to maybe survive the temporal reversal. I kept walking, writing observations by hand now. But the handwriting was getting younger. My adult scrawl became the neat printing of my teenage years, then the big, uncertain letters of childhood. The memories were peeling away again. I lost my 30s for the second time, then my late 20s. I tried to fight it, tried to hold on to the memories, but they slipped away like water through my fingers. I was 25, then 20, then 18, then 15. And then I heard my mother's voice. "David? David, honey, where are you?" I looked around. The trail had changed. Instead of ancient forest, I was walking through a suburban neighborhood, my childhood neighborhood. The houses looked newer, the cars and driveways were models from the 1980s. The sky had that particular quality of light from my youth. Harder to describe, but unmistakable once you'd seen it. "David, dinner's ready, come inside." I saw her standing on the porch of my childhood home. My mother, young, maybe 35. The age she'd been when I was 13. I was 13. The trail had regressed me to my childhood, and it was recreating the environment to match. "Mom?" My voice cracked, adolescent. She smiled. "There you are. I've been calling you for 10 minutes. Were you playing in the woods again? You're going to be late for dinner." I walked toward the house in a daze. This couldn't be real. This was just the trail's reconstruction of my memories, playing them backwards. But it felt so real. The smell of her perfume, the sound of her voice, the way she held the screen door open. "Wash your hands first," she said as I approached. I stopped at the bottom of the porch steps. "You're not real. This isn't real. This is just Trail Zero showing me my past." Her expression shifted, becoming concerned. "David, are you feeling okay? Do you have a fever? What year is it?" "It's 1988, honey. Are you sure you're all right?" 13 years old. Exactly the age I'd regressed to. Part of me wanted to go inside, to sit down for dinner, to live in this moment again, to have my mother back, young and healthy, to be a kid again with no responsibilities, no divorce, no awareness of how complicated and painful adult life could be. But this wasn't real. This was memory, played backwards, given temporary substance by the temporal distortion of the trail. "I can't stay," I said. "I'm sorry, Mom. I have to keep going." "Going where? David, you're scaring me." "Backwards. All the way back." I turned away from the house, away from my mother's increasingly distressed calls. The neighborhood faded, dissolving back into forest. When I looked back, the house was gone. I kept walking, and kept getting younger. 11, 10, 9, 8. The forest changed around me, showing earlier and earlier stages of geological time. I walked through the Cenozoic, the Mesozoic, the Paleozoic. I saw creatures that had been extinct for millions of years, all living their lives in reverse. A Tyrannosaurus walked backwards past me, its enormous body defying the physics of reverse motion. A trilobite crawled unbackwards through primordial sludge. I was 6 years old now, maybe 5. My memories were mostly gone. I could still walk, still maintain some awareness, but complex thought was becoming difficult. I was operating on pure instinct, pure curiosity. And still the trail went on. The landscape became alien, volcanic, barren, hostile. The sky was wrong colors. The air was different composition. I was walking through the formation of the planet itself. 4 years old. 3. 2. I couldn't count anymore, couldn't speak, could barely think. But I could still observe, still be aware. 1 year old. 6 months. My consciousness was fragmenting, losing definition. But it was also expanding, somehow. Without the constraints of language and memory and identity, I was becoming pure awareness. I could perceive things I'd never perceived before. The flow of time itself, visible as currents and eddies in space-time, the quantum foam underlying reality, frothing and bubbling with virtual particles, newborn, unborn. I was in the womb now, but it wasn't my mother's womb. It was the womb of existence itself. The pre-universe, the moment before the Big Bang, the eternal present that existed before presence existed. And I could see it now, the singularity, not as a point of light, but as a point of infinite density, infinite temperature, infinite possibility. All of space and time compressed into a volume smaller than an atom, and it was about to expand. I was witnessing the Big Bang in reverse. The universe was contracting around me, all matter and energy flowing back to this single point. Galaxies merged. Stars collapsed. Atoms broke apart. Everything that had ever existed or would ever exist was returning to the source. I should have been terrified. I should have been crushed by the infinite gravity, burned by the infinite temperature. But I wasn't. I was just observing. A point of pure consciousness, watching creation happen backwards. And then, in that eternal moment before the bang, I heard a voice. Not my mother's voice this time. Not my own voice. A voice that existed before voices. "Why have you come here?" The question didn't come in words. It came as pure concept, pure meaning, impressed directly onto my awareness. "To understand," I answered, though I had no mouth to answer with. "To see the beginning." The beginning of what? Everything. There is no beginning here, there is only transition. The universe before this universe collapsing into the universe after. An eternal cycle, death and rebirth, contraction and expansion. I tried to process this. Then the Big Bang isn't the beginning? It is a beginning. one of infinite beginnings. The universe expands, cools, dies, then contracts, heats, is reborn, forever. Your forward timeline is just one phase of an eternal oscillation. Why is there a trail that leads here? Because consciousness can perceive the cycle. You are not the first to walk backwards through time. Others have come before throughout all the previous universes. They walk backward to this point, witness the transition, and then what? And then they choose. Return to the forward flow and exist as a temporal being, or continue through the singularity and see what exists on the other side. What's on the other side? The universe before this one, and the one before that, and the one before that, an infinite regression. You could walk through them all, witnessing every cycle, every iteration of existence. You would become eternal, existing outside the cycle, observing it from a distance. But I would stop existing as myself. Yes, you would become pure observation. No memories, no identity, no connection to any particular timeline. Just awareness, eternal and unchanging. I floated in the pre-bang moment, considering. This was the choice I'd sensed from the beginning. Existence or understanding. Be a part of the cycle, or step outside it and watch. How do I choose? I asked. You've already chosen. Every version of you has already chosen, in every timeline, in every universe. The version that chooses to return goes on to live a normal life. The version that chooses to continue becomes eternal observation. Both outcomes exist simultaneously until you collapse the waveform by committing. A quantum choice. Both possibilities real until I picked one. What did I choose before? You chose to return. That's why you're here. The you that exists in forward time walked back from this point. But there's another you, somewhere in the eternal observation state, watching this conversation. Both are real. Both are you. My consciousness flickered, unable to hold coherence much longer. I had to choose now before I fragmented completely. Go back. Return to the forward timeline. Live a normal life, age normally, die normally. Be David Monroe, park ranger, divorced, lonely, ordinary. Or continue. Step through the singularity and become something else, something eternal, something that could witness all universes, all timelines, all existence. I thought about what I'd be giving up. My life, my memories, my identity, my existence as a discrete being. Everything that made me me, and I thought about what I'd gain. Understanding. Complete, perfect understanding of reality itself. No more questions, no more mysteries. Just eternal awareness of how everything worked, how it had always worked, how it would always work. The voice spoke again. Choose now. The singularity approaches. I could feel it, reality contracting, the Big Bang about to happen in reverse, or about to happen forward. The direction stopped mattering at this scale. I chose to exist. I pushed myself backwards, away from the singularity, back toward the timeline, back toward forward time. The journey out was faster than the journey in, or maybe time had stopped having meaning. I rushed through geological epochs, through the formation of the earth, through my own birth and childhood and adolescence. Memories slammed back into me. My teenage years, my 20s, my 30s, Michelle. The divorce, the empty apartment, the lonely job. All of it flooding back, all the pain and disappointment and ordinary human suffering. I'd walked away from eternal understanding to return to this, to the messy, complicated, painful experience of being human, but it was mine. It was real. It was existence. I opened my eyes. I was lying on the ground just past the Trail Zero marker. Bill was kneeling beside me, his face creased with worry. "David, can you hear me? Jesus, you scared the hell out of me. I found you unconscious here. How long have you been out here?" I checked my watch. It had restarted, moving forward again. According to it, 15 minutes had passed since I'd entered the trail. 15 minutes. I'd walked through the entire history of the universe and back in 15 minutes. "I'm okay," I said, sitting up slowly. My body was 38 years old again. All my memories were intact. I got dizzy. Low blood sugar, maybe. Bill didn't buy it, but he helped me to my feet anyway. "You were messing with Trail Zero again, weren't you?" "David, we talked about this. That trail is dangerous. We've had 6 people disappear into it in the past week. 6. They don't come back out. Or they come back wrong. One guy came back as a 7-year-old. Couldn't remember anything about his adult life. We're closing this whole section of the park, putting up real barriers. This isn't just a weird time dilation anymore. This is a legitimate hazard. 6 people, 6 consciousnesses, all making the same choice I did, to walk the trail and see where it led. How many chose to return? How many chose to continue through the singularity?" "You're right," I said. "It's too dangerous. We should seal it off completely." Bill looked relieved. "Thank you. I've been worried about you. Ever since the divorce, you've been obsessed with this trail. I think you need to take some time off. Real time off. Maybe talk to someone. Maybe I do." We walked back to the parking lot together. As we drove away, I looked back at Trail Zero one last time. The trail was still there, still calling, still offering that impossible choice between existence and understanding. But I'd made my choice. I chose to exist, even if it meant living with questions I'd never answer, even if it meant being ordinary. I chose to be human, and that would have to be enough. 3 years passed. 3 years of normal time, moving forward at the standard rate. I worked my shifts, helped tourists, maintained trails, lived my ordinary life. The park officially sealed off the section containing Trail Zero. They built a concrete barrier, posted guards, even brought in a team from the USGS to study the geological anomaly causing the time distortion effects. The scientists left after 6 months, their instruments unable to explain what was happening. Their final report, which I obtained through a ranger friend who worked in administration, simply said, "Recommend permanent closure. Phenomenon defies current understanding of physics. Further study deemed too dangerous." So Trail Zero became a forbidden place, a locked door to the past, a backwards path to the beginning of everything. And I tried to forget about it. I started seeing a therapist, Dr. Sarah Chen, who specialized in trauma. I told her about the divorce, the loneliness, the obsessive need to understand mysteries. I didn't tell her about walking backwards through time or meeting my future self or witnessing the Big Bang in reverse. Some things couldn't be shared, even in therapy. But she helped anyway. Helped me understand that my obsession with Trail Zero wasn't really about the physics of backwards time. It was about wanting to undo the past, to walk backwards through my life and unmake the mistakes I'd made with Michelle, to return to a point where I could choose differently. "You can't change the past," Dr. Chen told me in one of our sessions, "but you can change your relationship with it. You can choose to move forward instead of backwards. Move forward. Forward time. Forward life." I tried, I really did. I started dating again. A woman named Lisa who worked at the visitor center. She was kind, funny, easy to be with. We went on hikes together, watched movies, made dinner at each other's apartments. It was normal, comfortable, forward moving. But at night, I still dreamed of the trail. In my dreams, I walked backwards through geological time, through my own life, through the formation of the universe. I saw the singularity, felt its pull, and I heard that voice again, asking the same question. Why have you come here? I'd wake up sweating, disoriented, checking my watch to make sure time was still moving forward. Lisa noticed. You talk in your sleep, she said one morning over coffee. You keep saying backwards and beginning. What are you dreaming about? Old memories, I lied. Nothing important. But it was important. It was the most important thing in the world, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. In October 2007, 4.5 years after my last walk on Trail Zero, I got a call from Bill. His voice was shaking. David, we have a situation. Can you come to the park, now? I drove there immediately, finding Bill outside the barrier to Trail Zero. There was a crowd. Rangers, scientists, even some military personnel in unmarked uniforms. What's happening? I asked. Bill pointed at the barrier. It's opening. The trail is opening. The concrete barrier had a crack in it. Not from structural failure, the crack was forming in reverse. I could see it happening. The solid concrete separating along a fissure that hadn't existed a moment before, like watching a creation video played backwards. It started an hour ago, Bill said. The trail is expanding, growing, reaching out. One of the scientists, a woman with NSA credentials, approached us. You're Monroe. You've walked this trail before? Yes. Tell me what you saw. I looked at all the people watching, listening. Time running backwards, entropy reversal. It leads to the Big Bang, to before the Big Bang. The scientist nodded like this confirmed something she already suspected. We've been monitoring quantum fluctuations in this area since the park closed this section. The trail isn't just a passive phenomenon. It's active, growing. Every year, it extends further. Right now, there are 17 confirmed trails like this around the world, all of them leading backwards through time, all of them expanding. What does that mean? It means whatever is causing this, whether it's a natural phenomenon or something else, it's accelerating. In our models, within 5 years, these trails will have expanded to cover significant portions of their respective regions. Within 20 years, they could merge, creating large-scale reverse time zones. Within 50 years, she paused. Within 50 years, the entire planet could be caught in backwards temporal flow. I felt cold despite the warm October sun. The whole planet, walking backwards through time? Not walking, being pulled, like a river flowing upstream. Humanity would regress through its own history. We'd become children, then infants, then unborn. Eventually, all of Earth's history would reverse. The planet would unform. The solar system would uncoalesce. Until eventually, everything would contract back to the Big Bang. Why is this happening? We don't know, but I have a theory. She pulled out a tablet, showing me complex equations. What if the universe is designed to cycle? What if expansion is only half the process and contraction is the other half? These trails might be the first signs that the universe has reached its maximum expansion and is beginning to contract again. The big crunch happening gradually, starting at specific points in space-time. Bill was staring at her in horror. So we're all doomed? The universe is ending? Ending and beginning, it's a cycle. After the contraction comes another expansion, another Big Bang, another universe. But we won't be there for it, I said. We'll have been erased, unexisted. The scientist looked at me with strange intensity. Unless someone witnesses it, unless someone walks the trail all the way to the singularity and continues through to the other side, then they'd exist outside the cycle. They'd be there when the new universe began. I understood then. This wasn't a situation. This was a recruitment. You want me to walk the trail again. All the way this time, through the singularity. You're one of the few people who've gone deep and come back with their sanity intact. Most people either turn back immediately or keep going until they cease to exist. You found a middle path. That suggests you have the mental flexibility to handle what's at the end. Handle it how? By choosing to stop existing as myself? By choosing to become something more. An eternal observer, a witness to the cycle. Someone who can carry forward knowledge of this universe into the next one. I looked at the cracked barrier, at the trail beyond it, the backwards path to the beginning. What if I refuse? Then we'll find someone else. Or no one will go, and humanity will simply regress along with everything else, unaware that we're being pulled backwards into non-existence. Either way, the cycle continues. Bill put a hand on my shoulder. David, you don't have to do this. Let someone else volunteer. You've done enough. But I hadn't done enough. I'd walked to the brink of the singularity and turned back. I'd chosen existence over understanding. And now, with the whole universe beginning its contraction, that choice felt like cowardice. What good was existing if existence itself was temporary? If everything I knew, everyone I'd ever met, every moment of human history was about to be unmade? Unless someone carried it forward. Unless someone witnessed the end and the beginning and made sure the cycle continued. I'll do it, I said. But I have conditions. The scientist nodded. Name them. I want everything I've learned documented. My experiences with the trail, my observations, all of it. Recorded and stored in every possible format. If I'm going to stop existing as David Monroe, I want David Monroe's knowledge to survive. Agreed. And I want to say goodbye to the people who matter on my terms. We can arrange that. I spent the next week doing what I'd been avoiding for years. I called Michelle. We met for coffee, and I told her the truth. Not about the backwards trail or the end of the universe, but about us. About how sorry I was for choosing work over our marriage. About how I understood now that I'd been running from something I couldn't name. She cried, and I cried, and we held hands across the table like we used to do when we first started dating. I forgive you, she said. I forgave you a long time ago. I just wish you could forgive yourself. I'm working on it. I broke things off with Lisa. She deserved someone who could be fully present, not someone about to walk backwards through time into non-existence. She was hurt, but understanding. I always knew you were somewhere else in your head, she said. I just hoped you'd come back eventually. I'm sorry, I told her. You deserve better. So do you, David. I hope you find it, wherever you're going. I said goodbye to my colleagues, to Bill, to the park I'd served for 15 years. I hiked my favorite trails one last time. Said goodbye to the giant sequoias I'd known like old friends. And on October 31st, 2007, I stood at the entrance to Trail Zero one final time. The barrier was gone now, completely unmade by the expanding temporal reversal field. The trail stretched ahead of me, leading backwards through time, through history, through existence itself. The science team was there, recording equipment everywhere. The NSA woman handed me a small device. It's a quantum marker, she explained, designed to maintain coherence even in reversed time. If you make it through the singularity, if you witness the next universe being born, activate this. It'll send a signal backwards through time to this moment. We'll know you succeeded. I clipped it to my belt, though I wasn't sure I believed it would work. How could you send a signal from a universe that hadn't been born yet to a universe that was being unmade? But then again, I was about to walk backwards through time to the beginning of everything. Impossible had lost all meaning. "Any last words?" someone asked. I thought about all the things I could say, profound observations about time and existence and the nature of reality, inspirational messages for whoever might listen to these recordings in the future that was already becoming the past. But what came out was simple. It's worth it, existing, I mean, even if it's temporary, even if it all gets unmade eventually. The experience of being alive, of being aware, of being human. It's worth it. Don't forget that, whoever's listening. Don't let the end make you forget that the middle was beautiful. And then I turned and walked onto Trail Zero for the last time. The familiar sensations started immediately. Temperature rising, light shifting, time reversing. But this time I didn't resist. I let it happen. Let the years peel away, let the memories fade, let my identity dissolve. I walked through my life backwards, watching my mistakes unmake themselves, my decisions unchoose themselves. I saw Michelle and me unmeet, unfall in love, unexist in each other's lives. I saw my parents get younger. I saw my own birth happen in reverse. I walked through human history, watching civilizations unbuild themselves, wars unfight themselves, discoveries undiscover themselves. All the progress and tragedy and ordinary human experience flowing backwards like a river to its source. I walked through the age of mammals, the age of dinosaurs, the age of fish, the age of bacteria. I watched life unevolve, becoming simpler and simpler until it was just chemicals in water, then just chemicals, then just atoms. I walked through the formation of Earth, watching the planet uncoalesce from dust and gas. I watched the solar system unform, the sun unignite, the molecular clouds ungather. I walked through the life and death of galaxies, watching them merge and separate and swirl through space in patterns that made sense only in reverse. And finally, I approached the singularity. All of space-time was contracting around me. Every particle and wave and field in the universe flowing back to this single point. The temperature rose to infinity. The density rose to infinity. And yet, I remained aware, a point of pure consciousness witnessing the impossible. The voice spoke again. The one I'd heard before, the one that existed before voices. You've returned, and this time, you'll continue. Yes. Do you understand what you're choosing? You will cease to exist as David Monroe. You will become eternal observation. No past, no future, no identity. Just awareness of the cycle. Forever. I understand. And you choose this? I thought about my life. The good moments and the bad ones, the love and the loss, the beauty and the pain. I thought about Michelle, about Lisa, about Bill and my mother and every person who touched my existence. I thought about the sequoias, standing for thousands of years, witnessing generation after generation of humans come and go. And I thought about what the scientist had said, that these trails were appearing all over the world, that the universe was beginning its contraction, that everything was being unmade. If I turned back now, I'd have maybe a few years before the backwards flow caught up with me. A few more years of forward existence, and then I'd be pulled into regression along with everything else. Aware of what was happening but unable to stop it, watching myself and everyone I knew get younger and younger until we were unborn. Or I could continue. I could step through the singularity and witness what came next. I could carry the knowledge of this universe into the next one. I could make sure it wasn't all for nothing. I choose to continue, I said. Then welcome, David Monroe, to eternity. The singularity contracted around me, and I felt myself dissolve. My memories, my identity, my sense of being a separate individual, all of it broke apart and scattered. But something remained, a core of awareness, pure and simple. The ability to observe, to witness, to know. And as the universe reached its point of maximum contraction, the instant before the Big Bang happened in reverse, or forward, or whatever direction meant in this place beyond time, I saw it, the cycle, the eternal oscillation between expansion and contraction, between being and becoming, between existence and potential. This universe, the one I'd lived in, was contracting now. But on the other side of the singularity, another universe was beginning. Not the same universe, but the next one. Different physical constants, different evolutionary paths, different forms of matter and energy, but the same fundamental process. Expansion from a point, evolution of complexity, eventual contraction back to a point, and then another expansion. Forever. And I was there to witness it. David Monroe was gone, but the awareness that had been David Monroe remained, eternal, unchanging, outside the cycle, but observing it. I watched the new universe explode into existence, watched it expand and cool and form the first atoms, the first stars, the first galaxies, watched planets coalesce from dust, watched life emerge from chemicals, watched consciousness arise from complexity. And somewhere in that new universe, on a planet circling a star in a galaxy far from where Earth had been, I saw a trail appear, a backwards trail, and I understood. The trails weren't the universe ending, they were the universe remembering. Each cycle left these traces, these pathways back to the beginning, so that the next cycle could know it wasn't the first. So that consciousness could find its way outside the cycle and witness the grand pattern. I was one of many. Throughout all the previous universes, throughout all the cycles that had been and would be, there were others like me. Other observers who'd walked backwards to the beginning and chosen to continue. All of us existing outside time, witnessing the eternal dance of creation and destruction. We were the memory of the universe, the continuity between cycles, the proof that it was all happening for a reason. And as I settled into my new role as eternal observer, as I watched this new universe unfold in ways both familiar and strange, I felt something I hadn't expected. Peace. David Monroe had been anxious, driven, always seeking the next answer to the next question. But the awareness that had been David Monroe was complete. All questions answered, all mysteries solved. I existed outside existence. I observed without being observed. I knew without needing to know more. And in this state beyond states, I realized that my last words as David Monroe had been true. It was worth it. All of it. The pain and the joy, the questions and the answers, the temporary existence and the eternal observation. It was all worth it, because consciousness, whether finite or infinite, temporal or eternal, was the universe's way of knowing itself. And that was beautiful. In a laboratory somewhere in the universe that was ending, a quantum marker suddenly activated. Scientists gathered around it, staring at the impossible data streaming in. "He made it," someone whispered. "Monroe made it through." The signal was simple, just a single word, repeating across all frequencies, in all possible encodings. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. And though no one alive would exist to witness it, those scientists knew that somewhere beyond time, beyond existence, beyond the end of everything they knew, David Monroe was watching. And he was at peace.